Welcome friends to a review on the 2024 Ford Mach-E GT. Let's first talk about what's new for this latest model year. So regarding the GT models, like what I'm testing here, we have a lot of great standard equipment, like these sport seats that now come standard on the GTs, along with the red Brembo brakes and the MagneRide suspension. And something else that's new is the performance package for these GT models, which will unlock 700 pounds-feet of torque. And I do have that package here on this test model. And we also have a new Mach-E Rally model, which looks amazing. And if you opt for that, you will get the performance package as standard. So all the Rally models will come with 700 pounds-feet of torque. There's also a new bronze edition if you get the eruption green color, and it looks nice. It's available to you if you want it. And in general, with these Mach-E's, they have improved the range and they have increased the charging speed when you utilize a DC fast charger. I'll talk more about that later on in the video. Finally, we have a new in-house developed Ford engineered rear E-mode, and this applies to all trim levels of the Mach-E across the board. So this new rear E-motor, it's lighter than before, and it provides you with a more even torque distribution. Once again, this applies to all models of the Mach-E. So all great changes. This is genuinely the best model year of the Mach-E to consider if you're in the market. And with that established, let's go ahead and let's get into my driving impressions now. That acceleration is amazing. So as mentioned before, we do have here the performance package with this Mach-E GT. We still have 480 horsepower, but again, the torque has been enhanced to 700 pounds-feet. The regular GTs come with 600 pounds-feet of torque, which is still insane. But if you want this performance package and you find a vehicle that doesn't have it on the lot, you can simply add this performance pack later on after you buy the vehicle as well. But yeah, we got 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds, quarter mile in 11.8 seconds. This now accelerates faster than the Tesla Model Y Performance and the Porsche Macan 4 EV. So yes, the power, the speed, the thrust, all of that is incredible. But I have to say this vehicle is pretty under-tired. So we have two 45 wide tires in all four corners. And when you launch this thing, it actually spins the tires. So I would have to stop here. When you punch it, you get a bit of a tire squeal. But you know, that actually adds to the character of this. This thing has been a complete hoot to drive. This has been one of the more fun EVs I've ever experienced. It genuinely has a sense of humor, so I don't mind that this is under-tired. It's just surprising to me. I mean, even the Honda Prologue that I recently tested, that's a pure family EV, right? It has no sporting intentions at all, and that came with 275 wide tires in all four corners. But if you wanted more grip, I would definitely swap these tires to the most aggressive Continental or Michelin all-season tires, or just go with the summer tires from Continental or Michelin to get the maximum grip for this. Here we have some Pirelli P0 tires. Anyway, acceleration and thrust, it's incredible like you would expect. Yes, the speed does die down a bit after you pass 60 miles an hour, but don't worry, you're not going to be lusting for more speed in this. But the on-paper specs aside, what I really like about the acceleration here is how just purposeful it feels. I think a lot of that comes down to the well-dampened suspension. Usually vehicles that come with the MagneRide dampers, they're always going to be amazing. So yes, the suspension is certainly tuned to be on the stiffer side, but it's well dampened over the bumps. In fact, when you go over speed bumps in this, you hardly even feel it. This vehicle, it really isolates out the larger bumps extremely well. This is mainly a communicative suspension setup. You feel the smaller bumps coming through the chassis and through the steering wheel, so you know exactly what's going on in the road. And when you accelerate, you have a controlled acceleration. You get a bit of torque steer, but it's okay. You can manage that. But having well-dampened suspension, it just improves everything. Acceleration, handling, even your ride quality. Even though this is stiffer, you enjoy daily driving this. I would say the worst types of ride quality would be the vehicles that are too soft and they begin to jostle around and they're too wallowy and it causes people to feel car sick. I don't like that. And on the opposite end, the overly stiff cars that just crash over all the bumps and split your spinal cord in half, that's also unacceptable. I love perfectly dampened vehicles like this, where it actually benefits the handling. So we have profitable suspension in terms of handling and confidence, but we also have communication and nobody's feeling car sick. So well done there. And how is the handling? So your everyday driving is amazing with this Mach-E. Your long sweeping corners, whether it's on a back road or on the highway, you have a lot of confidence. And when you take your everyday left-hand, right-hand turns, it controls its 4,900 pounds of curb weight really well. Again, nobody's flipping or flopping on top of each other, hardly any body roll for your everyday drive. It's only when you push this thing to its full 10/10ths, that's when you notice this vehicle really fighting its battery pack weight that's down low. And I remember when I had a Genesis GV60 performance model to test, I was charging it at an Electrify America station. There was a guy with a Mach-E GT with like racing slicks on it and he had it lowered. That's great. I'm glad that he's pushing his vehicle to its limits. But the reality is you can tell that the Mach-E doesn't really like that. And when it's under tired like this, the vehicle, it almost starts drifting on me when I push it in the corners. And that especially happens when I have it in the unbridled mode. So we have 3 different drive modes here, and it does truly impact the driving. So we have the Whisper, the Engage, and the Unbridled. Why they don't call it Normal, Sport, and Sport Plus is beyond me. Anyway, right now I have the vehicle in its Whisper mode, and you do notice the ride quality improve ever so slightly. This is genuinely your softest mode. However, at first, I did not like the Whisper mode because the brakes, they were not calibrated correctly. I would step on the brakes, nothing would happen, and then all the bite would come down all at once. So I didn't really appreciate that. It was hard to manage in everyday city traffic, and that would also upset the occupants sitting with me. But not to worry though, you can enjoy the Whisper mode. I would just enable the one pedal driving. That way you don't have to rely on the brake pedal as much. So that really fixed my issues with the Whisper mode. Now, when you have the vehicle in Engage or in Unbridled, man, that really changes things up. So immediately the steering stiffens up in Engage or in Unbridled. Same thing with the suspension and even the brakes. Now the brakes become more immediate in its bite, and you're able to modulate that a bit better. So I would just turn off the one pedal driving when I have it in the sportier setting. Yeah, when you floor it, this thing, it almost wants to like drift on you, and you notice that weight shifting below you. So yeah, you can feel the car kind of fighting itself when you're driving it hard. But again, it becomes kind of a hoot because it's a bit untired. I like the way it squeals its tires when I launch it, and I also like that weird little weight transfer effect happening. It's entertaining in its own way. Unbridled, you notice the steering stiffen up even more. And that's your true sportiest setting. I do like that as well when I'm tackling a back road. Yeah, brakes become even more stiff in Unbridled. I mean, you have confidence in it. Like, it is good. It's just physics, right? It can't get away from its weight. But overall, I would say Ford engineers, they did a really good job, especially with the suspension. That's really well calibrated. acceleration is a blast, and it's surprisingly refined in here as well, primarily because they're using thicker double pane glass up here in the front. So even out on the highway, I'm not getting a whole lot of wind noise. Even the tire noise is pretty acceptable. It's minimal on your everyday commutes, but really it's only out on the highway that's when you notice a bit of road noise coming through, but really surprisingly isolated. I wasn't expecting this vehicle to be this quiet. Even the Honda Prologue that I tested last week, it did not have double pane glass on the side. Again, if you swap out these tires for some Continentals or something, this would get even quieter still. So well done there. Is this going to work out for everyone? I mean, I always say this in all my EV videos. I would not get these products as my only car. This would be like a second or third cheap lease vehicle for me. That's how I look at all of these EVs. And yes, they have improved the range and the charge times for 2024. This Mach-E GT, like what I'm testing here, it can do 280 miles of range. If you go with a premium all-wheel drive model, that can do 300 miles of range. And you can see more of that on Ford's website, but nobody really charges these EVs up to 100%. You should only charge it up to 80%, right? Like you should be operating it from the 20 to 80% range. And that's the other thing. Regarding the charge times, it has improved, but depending on the model, even when utilizing a fast charger from 20 to 80%, it still takes 32 to 36 minutes. And that's on the longer side. You know, certain rival vehicles like Genesis, they can charge much faster at like 18 to 20 minutes. So this is still very slow in terms of charging in comparison to some other rivals. So again, it doesn't really work out for everyone. Now, the other thing is I would only buy this stuff if you can charge this at home, but if you take this out on a long journey, then yeah, you have to rely on the public charging networks, right? But there is some good news. For 2024, these Mach-E's, you are able to charge them at a Tesla station now. And there are about 15,000 Tesla superchargers around the country that you can utilize to charge these vehicles. So that helps when you're taking this out on a long trip, and the navigation system in a way that it finds all the, chargers that you need for your trip. But anyway, that's my driving impressions. Let's go ahead and let's transition into this interior segment now. All right, now that we are stopped, let's go ahead and let's talk about this interior space. For the most part, I'm really impressed with the design and the material choices. I'm guessing this is not like real leather. This is probably some type of vegan material, right? You know how they do with these electric cars. But regardless though, the quote-unquote leather and the suede material really gives it a clean and upscale feel. And these sports seats are truly amazing. I'm really glad that they are offering this as standard for the GT models in 2024. You have a lot of lumbar support. It keeps you in place. Plus they just look cool as well. And they are electronically adjustable for both the driver and the passenger. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the doors, they kind of piss me off because we have these really extra electronic doors here. You press a button on the outside and that's how you open them, right? Granted, this is not the first car in the world to utilize electric doors. I'm just saying, I don't like it when car companies just overcomplicate simple things. For instance, Jaguar and Ferrari with their freaking air vents that electronically rise up and down. Like, there's no point in that. It's the same thing with these doors. I just don't like extra overcomplicated things for no real reason. It just makes things more disposable than what it already is. But moving on from that, you do have one-touch up and down windows for all 4 windows, and we do have the B&O sound system, and I have to say it does sound pretty good. You have a lot of bass and clarity. It's got some good punch as well. I would say the only thing it's lacking is a bit of brightness, but overall, this is a pretty good sound system. And we have the speaker grill material in the front dash here as well. It's supposed to give you this soundbar design, and the tweeters are here as well under the speaker grill. Anyway, moving on from that, your front visibility is really good. I like the seating position. Seeing out the back, that's not an issue. It's just that these side mirrors are on the smaller side, but I got used to it. The size of the steering wheel is pretty good. It does look a bit generic, but it's fine. Gets the job done. You have the massive tablet vertical infotainment screen here. I thought I would hate it at first, but I have to say it is pretty easy to use. And in general, the Ford MySync technology, it is very easy, but here it genuinely looks good as well. I like the quality of the screen, the ease of use, and with the way you sit in this vehicle, you can easily reach over and touch all aspects of the screen. So that's well done. And you do have the wireless Apple CarPlay, the wireless Android Auto. I don't mind the way they have the backup camera done here. That's pretty good for a vertical screen. And we also have a 360 camera with this test model. Now with most EVs, this is no exception. We don't have any physical buttons and switches for the climate control. That does bother me, but whatever. As mentioned before, you can easily reach over and touch the bottom portion of the screen as well to access your HVAC. Now, one thing I don't like about this interior is if you're really tall, your knees might start poking into the edge of this infotainment screen here. That's not cool. So as far as infotainments go, I have to say this is not super annoying in any way. This is pretty well done. The one thing I noticed though is when you have the navigation working and you're getting your instructions from the navigation, the voice sounds a bit muffled and staticky. I don't know what's up with that. Almost like a microphone that's cutting out. That's just something I noticed when I was using Apple CarPlay with the Google Maps navigation. The nav voice would just cut out on me occasionally, and it would just sound generic and kind of tinny. So I don't know what's up with that. The actual music itself, that plays amazing. There's no issues there. And regarding the gauge cluster, we just have a very simple, small screen here. I like the way they did that. And below, we do have this massive tray here with a wireless charging pad. However, they could have given us 2 wireless charging pads. Regardless, we have what we have, and we have a USB and a USB-C port as well. They are using some piano black plastic below, but I don't really mind it since it's only in that area and just one little piece on the steering wheel, so not a big deal to me. Got 2 cup holders. You have a rotary dial for your quote-unquote gear shifter, so I do like that. And we do have some storage underneath this floating center console here. Some people like it, some people don't. Regardless, we have it here. And the center armrest, it's a bit interesting. It looks cool, but you have to flip this up, and then you have an additional divider that you have to slide out of the way, and you have some decent space in that center armrest. It is useful. Glove box, that's a decent size. And another feature I really like about this Mach-E GT is the fixed pano glass roof. It looks amazing. Your passengers are gonna love it. And the glass itself does get pretty hot, but it doesn't translate that heat inside of the cabin. So really well done there. And when you look at this vehicle from the outside, like through a window, it just looks like you have a completely black roof. So that's really cool. Now let's talk about the rear seats. So I am 5'11". I can get in and out of this vehicle, no problems. And the legroom is decent, but if you're really tall, I would watch out for this roof line here because you might actually bang your head up against this. So something to watch out for if you're really tall. But regardless, the rear seat space, it's decent. I can certainly sit behind myself, but I sit closer to the steering wheel than most people my size. So it's not terrible. It's a useful backseat space, but it's not class leading by any means. But yeah, some vents back there as well. And I forgot to mention, there is a very cool pattern on the seats. It's difficult to see on the camera, but it does add an extra layer of design to the seats. And the seat comfort also continues in the back. Very comfortable. The rear trunk space, that's pretty decent. You can also fold the seats down to give you additional space. And we also have a front trunk as well. Granted, it's not very big, but whatever. They offer it. It's useful, and it's there for you if you need it. And this test model, it has about 2,000 miles on it, and there are no creaking or rattling going on here. In fact, most Ford products that I've tested, the new ones, I usually don't really notice any quality issues. There are people in the comment section, they would comment saying that, they have interior trim pieces that are, creaking and rattling, and they're having all kinds of issues with various products like the Broncos or some of the trucks, but I've never had that issue with the You know, the Mavericks, the Broncos, the F-150s, this Mach-E, they all feel pretty well put together, but that's just been my experience. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's conclude this video. All right, concluding thoughts on the Mach-E GT. As mentioned before, this is definitely one of the more fun EVs I've had a chance of testing because it genuinely does have a sense of humor. I like the way it lights up all four tires when I'm accelerating, and it even has a sensation of wanting to drift when you push this thing really hard due to the vehicle constantly fighting with that battery pack weight down low. But I was really impressed with the dampening of this vehicle despite it weighing almost 5,000 pounds and the suspension being tuned on the stiffer side. The ride quality is genuinely pretty good. It's a communicative, sporty suspension setup. It inspires confidence. You have pretty good feedback from the steering as well, and I do like how the modes genuinely make a difference here. They did a pretty good job with the interior space. I like their material usage, the design. That's really well done. The doors are a bit extra. Depending on your size and your height, your knees might be, pressing up against the edge of this infotainment, which is not cool. The rear seating space is just basically average. It's not amazing, but it's not useless either. And the trunk and the storage space, all that is decent. So yeah, I do like this SUV. I haven't tried the regular Mustang Mach-E, but that's also available to you. If you just want a calm, chill EV, then I would really look into the new Honda Prologue. That was a much bigger vehicle in terms of interior space and storage, and it rode amazing, and it was one of the smoothest EV experiences I've ever had. So that's something to look into, but as always, I wouldn't get this as my only car, and I already talked about this. I would only get this stuff as a cheap second or third lease option. And to help you out with that, I do have a free resource provided to you by AutoCompanion. This is a free leasing calculator, which will show you the residual values, the interest rate of a lease, and the incentives that you can qualify for in your local area. Now, leasing programs, interest rates, incentives, all of this stuff changes every month. However, AutoCompanion's calculator can also update every month. And as of right now, August of 2024, when I ran some numbers, you can lease these $60,000 MSRP Mach-E GTs for about $500 to $550 a month, depending on what incentives you can qualify for in your local area, and assuming you can at least negotiate a 10% off discount off of the MSRP. And keep in mind the incentives, they always stack on top of the dealer discount. So that's what I would aim for. And yeah, paying about $500 to $550 a month for this level of performance is amazing. Despite some of these incredible EV deals that can be had, I still haven't pulled the trigger on one yet. Will I do so in the future? Maybe, but we'll see. But this is cool though. I do appreciate this. I think it looks pretty good as well from the outside, especially with this optional red paint, the 20-inch wheels. That looks fantastic. And yeah, it truly has some presence and people are taking notice to this. That's my look at the Mach-E GT. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're an owner of one of these vehicles, how's it been holding up for you? How's the dealer experience been? Yes, these vehicles do have a pretty decent warranty, especially on the battery pack and the electrical components. It's about 8 years or 100,000 miles. Granted, almost every company will provide that type of a warranty, but you do need a good dealership nearby to utilize that warranty. So I would like to hear from the owners. If you found value with this content, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you again for watching. Take care and goodbye.